The autumn wind whistled through the Montana forest as Tom Miller guided his rescue patrol vehicle along the narrow dirt road. Light rain tapped against the windshield, and the afternoon sun struggled to pierce through heavy clouds. As a wilderness rescue specialist, he had spent the last 5 years patrolling these remote areas, but something felt different about today. His radio crackled with static every few minutes, which was unusual for this area. Tom checked his equipment again, frowning at the interference. He had seen strange lights in the sky last night, but had dismissed them as weather phenomena. Now he wasn't so sure. The static grew louder as he approached Miller's Ridge, a steep cliff overlooking a dense valley. Tom slowed his vehicle, noticing broken branches and disturbed earth along the roadside. Whatever had passed through here was big, and it had happened recently. "Base, this is Tom," he spoke into his radio. "I'm checking out some unusual damage near Miller's Ridge. Might be a fallen tree." "Over." Only static answered him. Tom parked his vehicle and grabbed his rescue pack. The rain had stopped, but the ground was soft and muddy. He followed the trail of destruction, noting how the damaged plants seemed almost burned. His heart beat faster as he pushed through wet branches, using his flashlight despite the daylight. The static in his radio had become a constant buzz. Then he saw it. Half buried in the earth was a smooth silver object about the size of a small car. It wasn't any aircraft he recognized. The metal, if it was metal, seemed to flow like liquid while remaining solid. Scorch marks scarred its surface, and a crack ran along one side, revealing a dimly lit interior. "Dear God," Tom whispered, his training warring with his disbelief. This was no plane crash. This was something else entirely. A sound caught his attention, a soft whimper coming from inside the craft. Tom's rescue instincts took over. Whatever was in there needed help, and that's what he was trained to do. He approached carefully, noting that the silver material felt warm despite the cool air. The crack was just wide enough for him to peer inside. What he saw made him forget to breathe. A humanoid figure lay crumpled in what appeared to be a control seat. Her. And Tom was sure it was a her. Skin was silvery like the craft's exterior, with delicate patterns that glowed with a faint blue light. She wore something like a form-fitting suit that seemed to shift colors as he watched. The being's eyes opened, revealing irises that swirled with countless colors. She focused on Tom and tried to move, but winced in pain. "Don't move," Tom said automatically, then felt foolish. Would she even understand? "Help," she spoke in perfect English, though her voice had an odd musical quality. "Please help. Don't call others." Tom's mind raced. Protocol said he should report this immediately, but his radio was useless anyway. And something, needed his help. He made his decision. "I'm a rescue specialist," he said clearly. "I'm going to help you out of there. Can you tell me where you're hurt?" "Impact damage to lower limbs," she replied. "Internal systems, recovering. But I cannot move well." Tom nodded, falling back on his training. Treat it like any other rescue, he told himself. He carefully assessed the situation, found the best way to access the craft's interior, and began the extraction process. The being remained conscious but quiet as he worked, her color-swirling eyes tracking his every movement. Finally, he managed to help her out of the craft. She was lighter than he expected, and her skin felt smooth like polished metal, but warm like human flesh. Up close, the glowing patterns beneath her skin created mesmerizing designs that shifted with her movements. "My name is Tom," he said as he began checking her for obvious injuries. "I have a cabin nearby. I can help you there." She was quiet for a moment, those fascinating eyes studying his face. Then she spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "You can call me Novet," she said. "And thank you. But you must understand, by helping me, you've just become part of something much bigger than either of us." Thunder rumbled in the distance as Tom processed her words. He looked at the alien craft, then at the strange being he was supporting, and realized his life would never be the same after today. Tom's cabin sat alone in a small clearing, surrounded by tall pine trees that swayed in the evening wind. He helped Nova through the door, noticing how her silvery skin seemed to shimmer in the fading daylight. Her glowing patterns had dimmed, which he guessed wasn't a good sign. The basement was cool and dry, with a small window that let in just enough light. Tom had turned it into a storage room years ago, but now it would serve as a hiding place. He helped Nova onto an old couch he kept down there, carefully watching her reactions. "Your heart rate is elevated," Nova said suddenly. "You're afraid." Tom paused as he arranged a pillow behind her head. "You can tell that." "The patterns in your bioelectrical field are clear," she replied, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. "But you help me anyway. This is interesting." Tom grabbed his first aid kit and sat beside her. "That's what humans do. We help people who need it." He opened the kit, then realized he had no idea if human medicine would work on her. "Can you tell me more about your injuries?" Nova's color-changing eyes studied the medical supplies. "My cellular repair systems are functioning, but they need time." She pointed to a cut on her arm that Tom hadn't noticed before. As he watched, the wound began to close on its own, leaving behind perfectly smooth silver skin. "That's incredible," Tom said. "Basic technology where I come from," Nova replied. Her voice sounded weaker. "I need to enter recovery state for a few hours. Will you stay nearby?" Tom nodded. "I'll be right upstairs. You'll be safe here." Nova's eyes swirled with new colors. "Safe," she repeated the word as if testing it. An interesting concept. Then her eyes closed, and the patterns on her skin began to pulse slowly like a heartbeat. Tom went upstairs and sank into his kitchen chair, his mind spinning. An alien. He was hiding an alien in his basement. He should call someone. The authorities, scientists, someone who would know what to do. But Nova had begged him not to, and something in her voice had made him agree. The next morning, Tom went down to check on her. He found Nova awake and standing by the small window, watching a bird on a nearby branch. Her movements were smooth now, showing no sign of yesterday's injuries. "Good morning," Tom said. "How are you feeling?" "My systems are at 89% efficiency," she replied, turning to face him. "The damage has mostly been repaired." She walked toward him, and Tom noticed she moved with an unusual grace, as if gravity affected her differently. "I brought you some water and food," Tom said, setting down a tray. "I don't know if you can eat our food, but—" "Your concern is appreciated," Nova said. She picked up the glass of water and studied it. "My body can process most matter for energy." She drank the water carefully, and Tom watched in fascination as it seemed to sparkle beneath her translucent skin before being absorbed. "You said yesterday that I'm part of something bigger now," Tom said. "What did you mean?" Nova set down the glass. "I am a refugee, you could say. My people have rules about interacting with developing worlds like Earth. I've broken those rules." She turned back to the window. "They will look for me." "Who are your people?" Tom asked. "Where do you come from?" "My origins are complicated," Nova replied. Her patterns flickered with new colors. "The less you know right now, the safer you are. But I promise I will explain everything soon." She looked at him with those swirling eyes. "You've shown me great kindness, Tom. I won't let that bring you harm." Tom wanted to ask more questions, but something in Nova's voice told him she wouldn't answer. Instead, he pulled up a chair. "Then tell me what you can. I'd like to understand." Nova's patterns brightened slightly. "Understanding," she said softly. "That's exactly what I'm looking for too." A week passed, and Tom found himself getting used to having an alien living in his basement. Nova was a quick learner, curious about everything human. She spent hours watching old movies on Tom's laptop, her patterns glowing brighter whenever something excited her. "Your art is inefficient, Nova said one evening as they watched a sunset together through the basement window. But beautiful. We don't have anything like it where I come from. Tom glanced at her. No art at all. We create things for purpose only, Nova explained. Her skin rippled with new patterns that Tom had learned meant she was thinking deeply. Beauty for its own sake is considered wasteful, but I'm beginning to understand its value. Tom watched as she raised her hand toward the sunlight, making her silvery skin glow orange and pink. Your people sound very practical. The Apex believe efficiency is everything, Nova said, then froze as if she hadn't meant to reveal that name. The Apex, is that your species? Tom asked carefully. Nova lowered her hand, her patterns dimming. Yes, we are. Collectors of knowledge, observers of developing civilizations. She turned to him. We're very interested in humans. Before Tom could ask more questions, a low humming sound filled the air. Nova's patterns flashed with alarm colors, another thing Tom had learned to recognize. They're scanning the area, she whispered. Tom moved to the window. High above the trees, he saw a faint shimmer in the air, like heat waves on a hot road. Your people? Nova nodded. They're looking for energy signatures that don't match Earth's normal patterns. She touched the wall, and suddenly her glowing patterns vanished completely. I can hide my energy output, but she looked at Tom with worry in her swirling eyes. The humming grew louder, then faded. Nova's patterns slowly reappeared. You're not just hiding from them, are you? Tom asked. You're afraid of them. Nova was quiet for a long moment. The Apex have very strict rules about contact with other species. Breaking those rules, she shivered, making her patterns ripple. Let's just say the punishment is severe. Tom sat down beside her. Then why risk it? Why show yourself to me? Because I needed to understand something, Nova replied. Something that has bothered me since we first began studying humans. She gestured at Tom's laptop, where a pause movie showed a scene of people hugging. Your emotions, your connections. The Apex see them as weaknesses, signs that humanity isn't ready for advancement. But what? But I think they might be wrong. Nova's patterns formed new shapes Tom had never seen before. The way you helped me, a complete stranger, an alien, it wasn't logical, it wasn't efficient, but it was right. Tom smiled. Humans aren't always logical. Sometimes we just do what feels right. Feelings. Nova said the word like it was something new and strange. We're taught to ignore them, to focus only on facts and data. But watching you, learning about your world, her patterns brightened. I'm experiencing things I never knew existed. Music makes my patterns change without my control. Sad movies create strange sensations in my neural pathways. It's all so inefficient, Tom suggested with a grin. Nova's eyes swirled with new colors. Wonderful, she corrected him. The moment was broken by another humming sound, closer this time. Nova's patterns dimmed again, but Tom saw something new in them, not just fear, but determination. Tom, she said quietly, I need to tell you something important, about why I'm really here, about what the Apex are planning for Earth. She looked up at the shimmering disturbance in the sky. But first, we need to move. They're getting better at tracking me, and you've already done too much to protect me. I won't let them find you. Tom looked at his mysterious guest, realizing that despite all the strange things he'd learned about her, he still didn't know the most important truth of all. But he was about to find out. Tom woke to the sound of knocking. He checked his watch. 6:30 a.m. Nova was hiding in the basement's secret storage space he had made behind some old boxes. They had heard more scanning sounds last night, closer than ever before. The knocking came again, more insistent this time. Tom opened his front door to find a man in a black suit standing there. Despite the early hour, he wore sunglasses. His smile didn't reach his mouth. Mr. Miller, the man said. I'm James Reed. We need to talk. He held up a badge that looked official, but Tom had never seen its symbol before. A triangle with an eye in the center. "What's this about?" Tom asked, his heart beating faster. "Mind if I come in?" Reed didn't wait for an answer. He walked past Tom, his shoes making no sound on the wooden floor. He stopped in the middle of the living room and sniffed the air. "Interesting energy readings in this area lately." "Very interesting." Tom kept his face neutral. "I don't know anything about that." "No." Reed turned slowly, looking around the cabin. 3 nights ago, our sensors detected an unusual signature near Miller's Ridge. Similar readings have appeared around this cabin. He took off his sunglasses, revealing eyes that were just slightly too dark to be natural. "You're a smart man, Mr. Miller. You must have noticed something strange." "Just normal forest activity," Tom said. "I'm a rescue specialist. If something unusual happened here, I'd know." Reed smiled again, and this time it reached his eyes, but not in a good way. "Let me be clear, Mr. Miller. There are things in this universe that humans aren't ready to handle. Dangerous things. Things that might look harmless, even beautiful, but carry great danger." He walked to the kitchen window and looked out. If someone were to encounter such a thing, the wise choice would be to report it immediately. The foolish choice. He turned back to Tom. "Well, let's just say it could have consequences for everyone on Earth." Tom felt cold despite the morning sun streaming through the windows. "Is that a threat?" "A warning," Reed corrected, "from someone who knows more than you do about what's really out there." He walked to the door, then stopped. "Oh, and if you happen to see anything unusual, say, patterns of light where they shouldn't be, or hear sounds that don't quite make sense, call this number." He placed a black business card on the table. The card was blank except for a series of numbers that seemed to shift and change as Tom looked at them. "One more thing," Reed said from the doorway. "Your visitor. Ask it about the Great Uplift. Ask about what really happened to the beings of Proxima B." His dark eyes fixed on Tom. "You might find the answer enlightening." After Reed left, Tom waited 10 minutes before going to the basement. Nova was already emerging from her hiding place, her patterns showing colors Tom had never seen before. "You heard?" he asked. Nova nodded. "He's not human," she said quietly. "At least, not entirely. The Apex have been watching Earth longer than you know. Some humans work with them now." What was he talking about? The Great Uplift. Proxima B. Nova's patterns dimmed to almost nothing. Proxima B was another developing world. The Apex found them. Promising. They were given the same choice Earth will soon face. She looked at Tom, her swirling eyes filled with something like sadness. "They don't exist anymore. They resisted the uplift process." "What process?" "Nova, what's really going on?" "We need to leave," Nova said instead of answering. "That man's visit means they're closing in." And her patterns flickered with worry. "And you deserve to know the whole truth. About why I'm here, about what's coming." She touched Tom's arm, her silver skin cool against his. "But not here. Not now. They'll be watching this place." Tom looked at the black business card, its numbers still shifting and changing. "Where can we go?" "Somewhere they won't expect," Nova said. "Somewhere even the Apex don't like to look." Her patterns formed new, determined shapes. "We're going underground." Deep in an abandoned mining tunnel, Tom set up the battery-powered lantern. Its light made Nova's silver skin gleam as she paced back and forth. They had driven for hours on back roads before hiking to this remote location. Now, surrounded by earth and stone, they were as hidden as they could be. "No scanning signals down here," Nova said, her patterns moving slowly. "The rock blocks most energy readings." She stopped pacing and faced Tom. "It's time you knew everything." Tom sat on an old crate. "I'm listening." Nova's patterns shifted to a deep, pulsing blue. "I told you I was a refugee. That wasn't true." She touched the tunnel wall, and suddenly the rock seemed to come alive with projected images, stars, planets, and strange alien cities. I'm a scout for the Apex. We search the galaxy for promising species to advance. Advance how? Tom asked, watching the images change. The Apex believe that evolution is too slow. We find civilizations with potential, and Nova's patterns flickered. We force them to evolve. Through crisis, through challenges that push them to their limits. Tom stood up slowly. What kind of challenges? The projected images showed scenes of devastation. Natural disasters, disease outbreaks, environmental catastrophes. We engineer situations that force rapid adaptation. Those who survive become stronger, more advanced, more like us. Like what you mentioned about Proxima b, Tom said. But they didn't survive your advancement. Nova's patterns turned dark. They refused to change, chose extinction over evolution. The Apex saw this as proof that they were never worthy. She looked at Tom. My crash wasn't an accident. It was a test, to see how humans would react to a vulnerable alien, to see if you would help or harm. Tom felt cold despite his warm jacket. You were studying me, all this time. At first, yes. Nova's patterns brightened, but something unexpected happened. I began to feel things, real emotions, watching movies, seeing art, experiencing kindness. She moved closer to Tom. The Apex were wrong about emotions being a weakness. Your feelings, your compassion, they're a different kind of strength. Why are you telling me this now? Nova's projected images showed Earth. Because the Apex are ready to begin Earth's advancement. They've planned everything, coordinated disasters, engineered viruses, controlled climate events, all to force humanity to evolve or die. Tom's mind raced. How long do we have? Days, maybe weeks. Nova's patterns formed complex shapes. But I can't let it happen. Not anymore. The Apex don't understand what they'd be destroying. Human art, music, love, kindness. These aren't weaknesses to be eliminated. They're precious things that the Apex lost long ago in their pursuit of perfection. That's why Reed threatened us, Tom said. He knows you've changed sides. Nova nodded. The human Apex hybrids like him serve as watchers. They think joining the Apex makes them superior. Her patterns showed determination. But I've learned that there's nothing superior about losing your ability to feel, to connect, to care. Tom walked through the projected images of Earth. How can we stop them? They're so much more advanced. That's just it, Nova said, her patterns brightening with excitement. The Apex's greatest weakness is their absolute logic. They can't handle emotional responses, unpredictable actions. It's why they need to study species before advancing them. They have to be able to calculate every possible reaction. She waved her hand, and the projections vanished. Your emotions make you wonderfully unpredictable. And I. Her patterns formed entirely new colors. I'm becoming unpredictable too. Together, we might be able to show the Apex Council that they're wrong about humanity. Tom looked at Nova, seeing not an alien studying humans, but someone who had learned to care about Earth's fate. What's our next move? We gather evidence, Nova said. I know their plans, their vulnerabilities. But first, her patterns showed worry. First, we need to get somewhere safe, because now that I've chosen to help humanity, the Apex will mark me as a traitor, and they'll use everything they have to stop us. Tom's old truck bounced along the mountain road as dawn broke over the hills. Nova sat in the passenger seat, her patterns moving rapidly as she monitored the sky for Apex ships. They had been driving all night, heading deeper into the wilderness. There's an energy spike ahead, Nova said suddenly. Her patterns flashed warning colors. Something's wrong. This isn't Apex technology. Tom slowed the truck. Around the next bend, they saw a roadblock. But instead of police cars, there were 3 black SUVs. James Reed stood in front of them, along with several other men in black suits. It's a trap, Tom said, starting to turn the truck around. Wait. Nova's patterns formed new shapes. They're not just hybrids. They're different. She focused on the group. They're humans who rejected the apex. Former agents who broke free. Tom stopped the truck. How can you tell? Their energy patterns are chaotic, emotional. No apex influence left. Nova turned to Tom. They might help us. Reed walked toward their truck, his hands raised to show he was unarmed. This time, he wasn't wearing sunglasses, and Tom could see his eyes had changed. They looked human now, with white surrounding dark brown irises. We need to talk, Reed called out, about stopping the advancement protocol. Tom and Nova exchanged looks, then got out of the truck. The morning air was crisp and cold. You're different from yesterday, Tom said to Reed. Reed nodded. The apex implants are gone. Removed them last night after. He looked at Nova. After we detected your emotional patterns, we never thought it was possible for one of the apex to develop real feelings. Neither did I, Nova said. Her patterns swirled with new colors. How did you break free of them? The same way you did. We started feeling things, started questioning their logic. Reed gestured to his team. We've been gathering evidence for years, building a resistance, but we never had an actual apex member on our side before. Nova's patterns brightened. You know about their plans for Earth. The coordinated disasters. The forced evolution. Reed nodded grimly. We've seen the preparation signs, but we need your inside knowledge to stop it. Tom looked between them. Can we trust them? Nova studied Reed's group carefully. Their emotional patterns are genuine. And her patterns showed surprise. They're afraid. The apex never feel fear. Reed stepped closer. We have a hidden base. Technology we've stolen from them. But we need your help. Both of you. He looked at Tom. You proved something important. When you helped Nova, despite your fear, you showed that human emotions can overcome alien logic. That's what the apex don't understand. Our feelings make us stronger, not weaker. Nova's patterns formed determined shapes. If I help you, I can never go back. I'll be marked as a traitor forever. You already made that choice, Tom said softly, when you decided to warn us. Nova looked at him, her swirling eyes showing new depths of emotion. Yes, I suppose I did. She turned to Reed. The Apex Council will meet in 3 days to approve the advancement protocol. I know how to access their systems, their plans, but they'll be expecting me to try something. That's why we need both of you, Reed said. Tom's purely human responses combined with your inside knowledge. It's something they can't predict, can't calculate. Tom reached out and took Nova's hand. Her silver skin was warm now, almost human temperature. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. Nova's patterns glowed brighter than ever before. Then we fight, she said. But not just to stop their plans. We fight to show them what they've lost. To prove that emotions and logic can work together. She looked at the rising sun. The Apex think they're perfect. It's time they learn they're wrong. Reed smiled. A real smile this time. Then let's go. We don't have much time. As they followed Reed's vehicles down the mountain road, Tom realized that Nova wasn't the only one who had been tested. Humanity was about to face its greatest challenge, and their best weapon wasn't technology or logic. It was the very emotions the Apex had dismissed as weakness. The Apex Council chamber appeared as a vast sphere of shifting light, suspended high above Earth's atmosphere. Tom floated inside a protective bubble Nova had created, watching as thousands of silver-skinned beings gathered in rising circles around them. Their patterns moved in perfect synchronization, except for Nova's, which pulsed with emotional colors they'd never seen before. You dare bring a human here? The council leader's voice echoed through the chamber. Unlike Nova, his silver skin showed no patterns at all. This only proves your corruption, Scout Nova. I bring proof of humanity's worth, Nova replied. Her voice was strong, though Tom could see her patterns showing nervous colors, and evidence that the apex are wrong about emotions. Reed and his team monitored everything from their hidden base on Earth, ready to broadcast the truth to every human communication device if needed. The fate of Earth hung on what happened in the next few minutes. Wrong. The leader's tone held no emotion. We are perfect. We evolved beyond the chaos of feelings. Our logic is absolute. Tom stepped forward in his bubble. That's your weakness. You're so focused on being perfect that you've forgotten how to grow, how to change. Murmurs spread through the gathered apex. Many had never heard a human speak before. Show them, Nova said to Tom. She raised her hand, projecting images into the chamber, scenes from her time on Earth. Tom helping her despite his fear. People creating art. Families sharing love. Humans helping strangers without logical reason. These are signs of weakness, the leader declared. Proof that humanity needs advancement. No, Nova's patterns flared bright. They're signs of strength. When Tom found me, his emotions told him to help, but logic said I was dangerous. Instead of following one or the other, he used both. That's what the apex have forgotten. The power of balance. Tom touched the bubble's surface. Your perfect logic didn't predict Nova could develop emotions. It didn't predict humans could resist your hybrid agents. Every time you face something you can't calculate, you fail. Nova projected new images, the resistance members breaking free of apex control, her own patterns changing as she learned to feel, Earth's countless examples of emotional wisdom leading to logical solutions. Impossible, the leader said, but his voice held a trace of uncertainty. Emotions are inefficient. They serve no purpose. They serve the greatest purpose, Nova said. Her patterns formed shapes of pure feeling that made the apex draw back in surprise. They help us connect, help us understand things beyond pure logic, help us become better than perfect. Tom smiled. Your advancement protocol is based on the idea that suffering forces evolution. But humans have proven that compassion, love, and understanding drive even greater changes. The chamber filled with chaotic pattern light as the Apex Council members reacted to these new ideas. The leader's perfect stillness wavered. You would risk everything, he said to Nova. Betray your people. Abandon perfection. For what? For the chance to feel, Nova replied. She reached out and took Tom's hand through the bubble, her patterns glowing with joy and determination. For the chance to be wonderfully, perfectly imperfect. The leader raised his hands, ready to signal Earth's advancement to begin. But all around the chamber, apex patterns began changing, showing new colors, new emotions. Look, Tom said softly. They're remembering. The leader saw his people changing, experiencing feelings long forgotten. His own skin began to show faint patterns. This was not calculated, not predicted. That's the point, Nova said. The greatest advancements don't come from perfect plans. They come from the heart. The chamber erupted in a display of emotional patterns as centuries of suppressed feelings broke free. The leader lowered his hands, his perfect logic finally understanding a greater truth. The advancement protocol is suspended, he declared. Perhaps we are the ones who need to evolve. As cheers erupted from Reed's team back on Earth, Tom looked at Nova. Her patterns showed pure happiness. You did it, he said. You saved everyone. Nova's swirling eyes met his. No, she said. We did it. Logic and emotion working together. She looked out at her changed people, then back at the beautiful blue earth below. After all, that's what makes us human. Us, Tom asked with a smile. Nova's patterns formed the shape of a heart. Yes, she said. Us.